You don't have a giving problem. You have a boundary problem. And nobody taught you the difference. Kind people are some of the most exhausted people on the planet. Not because they give too much, but because they give to the wrong people in the wrong direction, waiting for a return that was never coming. If you've ever ended a conversation feeling worse than when it started, if you've ever said yes when every part of you wanted to say no, if you've ever given and given and given and still somehow felt like you weren't enough, this video is the explanation you didn't get. Here's the thing nobody says out loud. Kindness in the right environment is nourishing. It creates connection. It makes life feel meaningful. But kindness in the wrong environment, kindness directed at people who don't have the capacity to receive it, people who take without reciprocating, people who treat generosity like an entitlement, that same kindness becomes a slow drain. And the cruelest part is that the kind person rarely sees it happening. Because kind people don't monitor what they give. They give, and then they give more, and then they wonder why they're so tired. The exhaustion isn't a sign that something is wrong with your kindness. It's a sign that something is wrong with the dynamic. There's a word in psychology for people who consistently give more than they receive in relationships. It's called asymmetric investment. And it's not a character flaw. It's a learned pattern. And learned patterns can be unlearned. But before we talk about changing it, we need to understand why it happens in the first place. Kind people are not born without boundaries. They're often taught to ignore them. In many families, in many schools, in many cultures, being good meant making other people comfortable. It meant not being difficult, not asking for too much, not taking up too much space. It meant reading the room before reading your own needs. And here is the invisible cost of that training. When you spend years learning to prioritize other people's comfort over your own signals, you stop trusting your own signals. You start to feel guilty for having needs at all. You start to interpret someone else's discomfort as your fault. That guilt, that almost automatic sense that it's your job to fix what's wrong in the room, that's not kindness, that's conditioning. And the two feel identical from the inside. Real kindness comes from abundance. It comes from a place of genuine care. It feels like choice. But conditioned giving comes from anxiety. It comes from fear. Fear of conflict. Fear of rejection. Fear that if you stop giving, you'll lose the relationship. That kind of giving feels like obligation. One replenishes you. The other depletes you. Most emotionally exhausted people don't know which one they're operating from. They just know they're tired. There are certain people in our lives who consistently leave us feeling emptier than before we saw them. Not because they're villains, not because they intend harm, but because of how they move through their relationships. They bring their problems and don't ask about yours. They take comfort and don't offer it. They fill the conversation with themselves and leave no space for you. And when you do share something, the topic somehow migrates back to them. This isn't always malicious. Sometimes it's unconscious. Some people never learned reciprocity. Some are carrying so much pain that they have nothing left to give outward. Some simply don't notice because no one ever required them to. But here's what matters. Whether it's conscious or not, the effect on you is the same. You walk away drained. And if you're a kind person, you walk away with a side of guilt because you feel like you should have done more. That guilt is the mechanism that keeps kind people in draining dynamics long after they should have stepped back. Because stepping back feels like abandonment. It feels like being the bad person. It feels like failing at kindness. But kindness that destroys the giver is not sustainable kindness. It's martyrdom. And martyrdom doesn't help anyone. Not really. I want to offer you a reframe. When you are depleted, truly depleted, running on empty, you can't actually give from kindness anymore. You give from resentment, from duty, from the fear of what happens if you don't. The quality of what you offer changes completely. And the people who deserve your care don't get the real version of you. They get the exhausted, going through the motions version. Protecting your energy isn't selfish. It's responsible. It's what makes sustained kindness possible. Think of it this way. You cannot give someone a drink of water from an empty cup. That's not cruelty. That's just physics. The cup needs to be refilled, and you are the only one who can refill it. The question is not, how do I give less? The question is, where does my giving actually go somewhere? So how do you start to change a pattern that's been there for decades? Not by becoming cold, not by putting walls up and calling it growth. That's a different kind of wound. You start by noticing. After you spend time with someone, how do you feel? Not in the moment, not while you're performing being fine, but afterward, when the door closes and it's just you. Do you feel lighter or heavier? Your body knows before your mind does. And for most kind people, the body has been sending signals for years that the mind has overridden with, but they need me, and it's not their fault, and I should be more patient. Starting to notice is not the same as starting to judge. You're not labeling anyone. You're just paying attention to where your energy goes and what comes back. The second thing is learning the difference between helping and fixing. Helping is giving someone what they actually need. Fixing is trying to solve someone's pain to make your own discomfort go away. Kind people are often expert fixers, and fixers exhaust themselves because other people's problems are not theirs to solve. And the third, and this is the one nobody talks about, is learning to receive. Exhausted givers are often very bad at receiving. They deflect compliments. They downplay their own needs. They feel guilty being cared for. But the ability to receive is what closes the circuit. It's what makes real mutuality possible. You are allowed to be given to. That's not weakness. That's wholeness. Kindness is one of the most powerful things a person can carry. It creates safety in rooms that didn't have any. It changes the temperature of a conversation. It makes people feel less alone. But kindness without discernment is a river without banks. It floods everything. It nourishes nothing. The work isn't to become less kind. The work is to become wise about where your kindness lands, to notice who fills you back up and who quietly empties you, to let that information matter. You were probably taught that being good meant being endlessly available, that love meant never saying no, that caring meant caring more about others than yourself. None of that was wrong exactly, but none of it was complete. The lesson nobody taught you is this: you can be a deeply kind person and still have limits. You can love people and still need space. You can care, genuinely, fully care, without losing yourself in the caring. That's not a contradiction. That's maturity. If this landed somewhere in you, I'd genuinely love to know, what is one relationship in your life that consistently leaves you feeling more full? And one that consistently leaves you feeling more empty? You don't have to share either one, but noticing the difference, that's the beginning. This is part of a series called Lessons Nobody Taught You. Each video is one chapter of a bigger conversation about the things we were never told but always needed to hear. The next one is already waiting.